right spot for the podcast?
I think so.
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, give me my pencil.
I don't think Bert's here yet. It's kind of bad.
Yeah.
He's late.
Is the door unlocked?
Oh,
Yeah,
wait.
I don't know.
Is that him right there?
Sorry, guys. I'm late.
Oh, hey,
That's all
Bert.
right. We're just about to start, actually, so that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can sit right here.
Okay, let's get started.
All right.
Hello, and welcome back to the TikTok podcast. Today we have a very appropriate topic today, which is time travel. So we have 3 guests on the show. Why don't you introduce yourselves?
Why is it very appropriate?
Because it's TikTok.
Oh,
time, you know?
Time, yeah,
Okay.
that makes sense.
Yeah, so I'm Dylan.
I'm Roberto.
I'm Paul.
And I'm Matthew, as you already know.
Yep, and I'm Sam, if you didn't know. So, yeah, we have a 5-person podcast today, and we planned this so they can go a little bit longer. Maybe we can have a bit more of in-depth conversation about this, because we know how confusing and perplexful, extensive, exactly, time travel can
And
be.
existential.
Hopefully we can have some arguments and, debate about what we think would actually happen.
If it's actually possible, too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's...
Einstein's theory of relativity, all that junk. So, all right.
Well, you wanted to start there then? The theory of relativity.
Yeah. Why don't we start there? So, who knows something about the theory of relativity? Does anyone even know?
No,
It has something to do with time and space.
I read a book a while ago about Einstein's entire life story, so I know a little bit about the theory of relativity.
Okay.
Relativity basically means that if you look at 2 objects which are let's say the Earth is orbiting around the sun. Well, then you could say that Earth is orbiting around the sun, or you could say that the sun is orbiting around the Earth, and there's no way to prove it.
Because if you're standing on the Earth, it looks like the sun is orbiting you?
Yeah, and then if you're standing in the sun, it looks like the Earth's orbiting you. So you can't really know.
Isn't that also how, with the cart, if you're sitting in a car, compared to the outside if you're driving?
Yeah.
If you're following someone,
you could be stationary, and the world could be spinning underneath you.
Yeah.
That's
now, obviously,
true.
this
But
isn't
I think
logical.
this is more about time, the theory of relativity of time, which is, let's say someone's traveling at the speed of light. They are actually moving through time slower than the rest of us. So if someone was in a spaceship and they're going at the speed of light for about a year, I don't know exactly what the ratio is. If they're going for a year, right, and then they come back to Earth, maybe 100 years will have passed, and they will only travel through a year, because when they go at the speed of light, they're moving through time slower. I don't know exactly how it works, but I'm pretty sure that's how it is.
That's how it was for the Interstellar. If you ever watched
Yeah,
it, it was the
Interstellar.
black hole. The gravity was just so intense it warped time. So
Yeah,
an
'cause
hour
gravity
on
warps
there
time, too.
was 8 years back on Earth.
That one planet they went to,
Yeah.
whereas if they're on that planet,
with the
1
water.
hour is a year.
Also,
something like
the time dilation thingy plays into relativity, because if you saw someone rocket by on a glass spaceship, let's say you can see someone traveling at the speed of light, they would look like they were moving slower to you, and you would look like you were moving slower to them, because that's how relativity works.
Okay, interesting.
Okay, yep.
Yeah.
And it's like driving on the highway, right? If you're both going at 60 miles an hour, it looks like you're just stopped. You're not even moving, but you're both moving at 60.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting, yeah.
And
it's complicated.
I think it works for other things too, like the time relativity. Like if you're running really fast, I saw a video once of Usain Bolt, right? Mm-hmm. He was running the 100-meter dash or whatever he does, and during that time, if you had a very, very precise clock on his wrist, and then there's another one, and they both started when he started, his watch would be behind by 0.000001 seconds.
They did that with atomic clocks and fighter jets as well.
Yeah.
But how does the clock, or how does the watch, with all of the same mechanics and all of the same
Because time
methods,
is relative to the speed you're moving.
But it's just moving, it's not.
Yeah, I know.
affecting
I
the
don't know
watch.
exactly how it works, but I know it's true.
They did that with atomic clocks, because atomic clocks is a cesium atom, and it moves back and forth, a precise amount of times in a second. So that's how they were able to get a really accurate time. And they put one cesium atom atomic clock in a fighter jet, and then flew all around the Earth. And then the other one they kept on the Earth, and the times were different. The fighter jet one was slower. And obviously that's not a very accurate measurement, because if you think about it, Earth is orbiting around the sun, which is orbiting around the galaxy, which is shooting through space, which is constantly expanding. So if you were stabilized exactly in the same spot, I'm sure the difference would be a lot, bigger.
Yeah. And I think there's an astronaut. The astronaut that has been in space the longest. He's not in space anymore, but he was up there for like 12 years, something like that. I don't know the exact numbers.
Just sound like
But
the ISS.
apparently, because he was out in outer space, his clock would have been, I think it was like 1 minute off, which is the most it has changed for anyone ever. 1 minute clock off, so he's 1 minute younger than he should be.
I suppose that would mean that like his the station he was stationed at would be spinning faster than the Earth would be. Like it'd be traveling around the Earth faster than the Earth would be spinning. Cause
Yeah.
otherwise,
If you look at it's the relative thing again. Like if in the ISS, if you're looking down on the Earth, you see like the Earth turning really slow, and it looks like you can easily see it. Like it looks really slow. If you look at the ISS from space, it's like whipping by, like really, really fast. Like if you look sometimes if you look in the sky at night and you see like some of them aren't stars, it's the actual ISS. It whips like really, really fast past, and it looks like it's a bullet. But to them, it looks like they're just going really, really fast.
Sure
Because the relative distance.
That's due to it. That's due to it's being a greater distance to you know, a bigger diameter, meaning.
Well,
more
I don't know
distance
much
to
about
travel.
physics and crap.
Like when you look at the horizon, it seems like it's a big portion of the Earth, but it's really like a tiny, like a needle, compared to how big it is. So if you're looking up, like think about how fast they see the Earth spinning, right? If they see it spinning fairly fast, and then us, it's just like a tiny little needle just going past them.
Well, think about it. If a person on the surface of the Earth is holding a really bright light that you can see from space, unlike the Great Wall of China, the light would whip by like the same way that the ISS whips by for people like us. We're bored here on Earth.
They would only be able to see it. It's like when you have a flashlight and you look right into the center of it. It's a lot brighter than everywhere else. It would be like that. They'd only be able to see the flashlight for like a split second, and then it would turn out of the screen.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the Earth's surface moves at about 1,000 miles an hour. I don't know if you know that because it turns or rotates once in a day, and the circumference is 24,000 meters or miles. Sorry. So, the Earth's surface actually moves at 1,000 miles per hour, but you don't really notice it.
Well, I'd assume that number isn't exactly exact, of course. Because,
around. It's not
because
exactly
you'd have to
1,000.
round a lot of those numbers.
Yeah, but like the circumference is around 24,000, and it moves once. It rotates once per day, which is 24 hours. So
yeah. Unless you don't believe that, if you believe in the flat Earth.
Oh gosh, let's not even get into that.
If anyone here or listening believes in the flat Earth, come on the podcast. We'd love to have debate that.
That could be.
That would be an interesting point of debate.
The flat earthers have members all around the globe.
Say that slower.
All right. Well, the ISS kind of brings us to like whether it's possible to travel in time using wormholes and black holes and whatever.
And like we're talking about speed of light. Is it possible to travel at the speed of light? I've never really done much research on this.
Well, think about it. If you were rocketing crossing the speed of light, you couldn't see ahead of you, because light wouldn't be traveling ahead of you to see whatever's in front of you, because you'd be traveling as fast as.
First of all, your eyes would be ripped to shreds.
Well, I mean, let's not even get into the physics
so
of
you
it.
won't be able to see in general.
How do you know your eyes are
in an
ripped to
assumed
shreds?
situation where you could survive traveling at that speed.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you be able to we're going through a car at 60 miles an hour? It's like a gradual acceleration.
Yeah, but speed of light is just so.
Yeah.
That's
the reason is because
I'm
gradually warming yourself up. Yeah, I can withstand it up to like 120 degrees, but like once you grade me up to 200 degrees, I'm gonna be boiling in my skin.
299,792,458 meters per second.
But there's like a train that goes 200 miles an hour, and you're standing in there, and you can walk around, and you don't even know you're moving that fast.
So
I feel like you could be able to do it.
Miles per hour. Okay, so instead of going, so you're talking about going 60 miles an hour in a car. So that's
One
going from
thing-
0
The thing is,
normally
it
to
wouldn't
60.
be the speed that would kill you. It'd be the G-forces getting up to that speed.
That's the main thing.
But it would be really. Let's say you only get. If you're accelerating 60 miles per hour every second, which is much faster than any supercar today, how long would it take to get to the speed of light? Because you'd have to get there gradually, right?
Accelerating.
You can't
What's the acceleration at?
Well, let's say 60 miles per hour per second. So it'd be like 1 second you're going 60, 2 seconds you're going 120.
Okay.
How
You'd have
long
to do
would it
some
take?
serious
How
math.
long would it take to get you to the speed of light?
Well, to put this into perspective, for those who don't know, the speed of light is 670,616,629 miles per hour, which is insane.
Couldn't we just divide that by 60? And then...
Yeah, you get how many seconds.
Yeah, we're
So
doing
please
some math
do
today.
Welcome to the math podcast.
The mathematics podcast.
He's giving up on science. We don't know how to do it.
We're kind of straight off in the first.
Numbers and equations
are
where it's at now.
Oh my gosh.
Well, light can be relative to time travel. I don't see us being straight off of our topic.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about relativity and how time travel can occur in real life, because you watch all these sci-fi movies that include things that can't really happen.
They jump back to 1985.
This is sort of the closest thing, because of course, I mean, you can't really. I don't believe, and I don't think any of you believe, that traveling back in time is actually possible. If anything, traveling forward in time would be kind of possible through your mind, like through relativity and being like a minute behind.
Yeah, through relativity, you could
that's really
still be traveling through time and then come back and everything.
We're always traveling through time.
I
That's
suppose
true.
a way you could think of if in the situation where if you're traveling at the speed of light, the time you experience is nothing close to the time that the people who aren't traveling at the speed of light are experiencing. You could technically travel in time by getting in a spaceship, flying it around the galaxy for at the speed of light for a year for you. When you get back to Earth, it'll be 100 years in the future due to how much what we were discussing earlier, how time goes past slower for those going at higher speeds. And so I suppose that could be seen as a type of time travel due to
What I don't get is the aging process. So for example, if you traveled at the speed of light and survived, obviously, for 1 year, and then you came back 100 years later, your body doesn't age 100 years. It only ages 1 year, doesn't it? So that'd be kind of weird. Your body would have to... But 100 years have passed, which means it's kind of...
I forget the reasoning as to why when you go faster, you age slower. I know that, I believe that that's been somewhat that's a theory that's out there that has yet to be disproven.
130 days using the super speed car that travels 60 miles an hour every second to go 130 days.
So that's like a
That's
third
actually,
of a
I
year,
thought it would
right?
be a lot longer, but that's actually pretty good acceleration.
Well, considering how
For a
fast the
second, though.
acceleration is,
Yeah.
I mean, 130 days is pretty
We're about
long.
130 days into the 2017, right?
Plus, you'd have to figure out a
Roughly.
material that, if you're driving a car like this, you have to figure out a material that can withstand even half the speed of light. Not even
Which is-
a 1/100th the speed of
It's
light would still
insane.
start tearing apart your car.
Yeah.
Okay, I actually need to pause this for a second.
All right, I think that's enough on relativity. Let's get into the good stuff, the sci-fi stuff, the fake stuff, but good nonetheless. So I know, Matthew, you know the three types of time travel. Can you explain them?
The three different types are, I forget the names, but I know what the types are. There's one which is multiple timelines, which is when you travel in time, you create a different timeline or a different universe. So let's say you go back in time, and everything you do doesn't matter. It's not going to change the timeline that you originally came from. So you go back in time, and you change something, and that change creates a whole different timeline, right?
That's the timeline travel type that uses Back to the Future, right?
No, that's different.
So you're saying the time that you came from stays the same, but everything from that point on that you go to is different.
And I don't know how it would work. If you want to go back to where you came from, I don't know if you can, because you're now in a different timeline.
You're creating.
You can never go back to where you came from.
You're creating variations of the original timeline, correct?
Yeah. And then the other timeline is there's only one timeline. I mean, the other time travel is there's only one timeline, which is what they use in Back to the Future. So they go back in time, and everything they do affects what already happened. So it's like the grandfather theory. You go back in time and you kill your grandfather. Well, now you can't be born because you killed your grandfather, so you couldn't have gone back in time. So you start disappearing or something.
Oh, okay.
That would be there's only one timeline, so you can't everything you do matters.
You can't mess up something, otherwise it'll.
Yeah, otherwise you'll disappear, in Back to the Future.
Right.
All right. The third type is similar to the second type, and I don't know what it's called, but pretty much what it is if you go back in time, everything that you do already happened. So let's say you go back in time and you kill your grandpa, or you're trying to. You have a mission. I'm gonna kill my grandpa, but everything you do already happened. So your grandpa was almost shot by a guy that was actually you, and everything you do like falls exactly into place of what was supposed to. It's kind of like
so you can't actually have any effect on the timeline because everything already happened.
yeah.
The
So like
timeline's
everything
already
you
set.
do, every free choice that you think you're about to make, like I have free will, I can do this, do that. Everything you're doing, a past version of yourself already did because you traveled into the past in your own timeline.
Right. It kind of reminds me of like
Wait, that's
dreams.
like the thing that they do in Harry Potter when
Yeah,
she
Prisoner of
uses-
Azkaban.
use
But-
the time turner.
I think it might be a little different, but yeah, it is the same because they have to throw rocks and they throw them like in the same position and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they don't really have free will, I guess, because everything. Well, they have free will. They think they do.
They
but
know what they
everything
need to do because it already happened.
Yeah,
Which is
but
interesting.
even if you don't know what you're supposed to do, it happens anyways because your past self didn't know what to do either, and they just did it.
That's how Harry was able to cast the Patronus, is because he'd already done it.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that's the most plausible of the three because, like, if you think about dreams, like deja vu, you know, like deja vu is kind of like you dream something and then like it happens in real life, but you kind of forgot the dream, but it happens and you kind of like, oh hey, I think this already happened before. That's
Yeah.
It
kind
was
of
just
like
in a
it.
dream.
Also, it kind of like here's a movie relation here. Star Wars Episode 3, where Anakin has that dream that Padme is suffering,
Mm-hmm.
when in reality it was his actions that made Padme suffer in the end, which was the exact same kind of thing. So it's like he wants to change something, but it's actually his actions that caused it.
Mm-hmm. So it's like it's kind of like, would you rather know how you die or know when you die? If you found out how you're going to die and you try to change it, it wouldn't matter because it's set in stone. That's how you die.
Right.
So how you die could be you trying to stop you dying, and that's how it happened already.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like everything already happened, and you figuring out how you died and trying to stop it is what happened that got you killed.
But would that be? Would the how you die when you die be based off of you not knowing that or you knowing that?
It would be
I
depends
guess
on
it
which
would
theory.
have been-
Depends on which theory of time travel you're talking. Are you talking about you can change the past? Because if you can, you're talking multiple timelines.
Because if you knew when you were going to die, then you could take yourself out before that date, and that would kind of ruin everything.
Well, oh my,
But
that's true.
it's so weird because
Like if you knew when you were gonna die,
Okay,
if you're
yeah,
gonna
if
die
you-
in 3 days, you kill yourself right now. What
Yeah.
happens?
You can change.
because you couldn't
Well, you
really.
create a paradox, or like you stop it from occurring.
Then okay, well, the fact that can happen pretty much disproves that one theory.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. I don't know.
I feel like we should move
So
on to the next topic here.
if you knew when you were going to die, or if you were told when you were going to die, and it was the truth, it would have had to have been grammar. Okay, English. It would have had to have been based off of you not knowing that beforehand.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really confusing.
Otherwise, it would.
So,
So
what do you think is the most plausible out of the three that could happen?
Probably the third one, where you go back in time, but you can't really affect anything. Otherwise, it'll affect you. Maybe. Well, actually, I don't know, because I think the first one, where you create multiple timelines, is probably the most. That's probably the most plausible, because you create a different set that wouldn't affect the original.
Yeah. Well, I guess it wouldn't affect you. Like if you went back in time and killed your grandfather, right?
That's assuming that there's multiple variations of the one timeline that could be created. I mean, who's to say what would happen if you went back in time and killed yourself before you could go back in time and, kill yourself? Would you then create, like, you just loop back around on yourself, and so, like, what occurs then? Do you just kind of, just enter into the timeline as your new self or something and just, continue from there?
It's like
Or-
Back to the Future. Like, do you disappear if you change something that like hinders your existence?
If you kill your grandfather, do you disappear, or does your grandmother find a new spouse and then you become a different person?
Oh yeah.
That's
Like you think it's your grandpa, but it's actually not, and it was like your grandmother was cheating on your grandpa the whole time,
But that
and you didn't even know it, and you
Plot
grew up the
twist.
whole time thinking that was your grandpa.
but in that case, you'll have different genetics and whatnot, and like a different.
No, you'd have the
memory.
same genetics. You just killed a guy you thought was your grandfather.
in the case Matthew said, but in your original case where you kill your grandfather and then your grandmother finds a new spouse.
Oh yeah.
you would have different genetics and
And
probably a
it
different
won't
upbringing,
create
which
the
could
same
stop
child.
you from generating a time machine.
Yeah. Well, there's also the third one, right, where you can't change anything. It already happened. Is similar to predestination. It's the movie, and it's also a term used to. It means like your destination, like the end point of the timeline, is already determined. So predestination.
By the way, I feel like Back to the Future is a bad example due
Why is
to
that?
like.
They never follow their rules.
Well, first off, yes, but like they don't really create a paradox. I mean, he goes back into the past, and then he kind of accidentally breaks up his parents, but then he gets them back to their together in the end, and so like there's nothing to prevent him. He doesn't form a pattern to prevent himself from going back into the past, and then being able to go back, because he solves any problems he creates. To be fair, he also changes some things, as in like he makes his home life better by giving his dad more confidence somehow. But he doesn't actually produce any paradoxes, because he solves any of the large paradoxes that he may have created when he went back there.
And any of the small stuff he changes, like when he crashes into the one pine and then makes it Lone Pine Mall, that doesn't like have an effect that stops him from going back to the future.
Oh, okay. So it is the second one, right? It is the second one where you can change the past and it affects the future, because he went back in time and changed things, and when he went back to the future, his family is different.
Yeah,
So it is
his
the
home life
example.
is better.
All
Yeah.
three are very plausible, because the first one is a many worlds theory that like
I've only seen the first.
Yeah,
no, not the Back to the Future. The three different types of time travel. Like,
Yeah.
the first one is like based off the many worlds interpretation, like that
Mhm.
each decision creates a different timeline. But if you travel back in time and change a decision, that creates a completely new timeline.
Yeah. Yeah,
The second one is also possible. That would be like the logical way you think about time travel. That the things that you do affect the future, and then the third one is kind of like a interesting way to think about it. Like nothing you can do will ever change anything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hold on. I want to go back to Paul's point. If when Marty went back and like I know he directly interacted with his mother,
Mm-hmm.
like, and did he interact with his father directly back in the past?
Yeah.
I don't remember. It's been a while since I've seen the movie.
He mainly directed.
Yeah.
Was in contact with
Even
his
though
father.
they got back together, like his parents, in the future when he returns, wouldn't they remember Marty?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Like,
And
wouldn't they
also,
be like, yeah,
and they're also
you
like,
were,
I'm
If you remember, he goes by a different name at the time, and
No.
so like they could just doesn't he go by a different name?
I don't think so. Oh, I think he goes by. Wait, what is he?
because wouldn't you
I think
remember?
he goes by Calvin Klein, right?
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah,
Because he's
well, I
wearing
mean,
Calvin Klein
I
underwear,
believe-
and then
I believe he changes. It's assumed that his name's different because doesn't he get like in a crash and then his mom finds him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like his clothes he wakes up, he's in different clothes, his clothes are getting washed, and then she refers to him as Calvin Klein, as like, oh, it's what's on your underwear. And so he goes by that, and then like, since it's unimaginable that your son would be in the past, or like they had no idea that like Doc had the ability to send Marty back in time, that it's just assumed that he's just a random stranger that managed to put them together.
but also at the end he's leaving. I don't know how. I think he's like, just call me Marty at the end, or maybe he like introduces them as Marty, and they're like, Marty, that's a nice name.
Oh
And they're
yeah.
talking to
Yeah.
each other. So like they know his name is Marty, and they name their kid Marty, which is weird.
But
Because
if you think about it in the original timeline, where did they get the idea for Marty from?
Well, I mean, perhaps they originally wanted to name him Marty, or like something else caused
and it's
it,
also
but
weird.
it's just
Like,
that.
why did they name their third kid Marty?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why not your
That's-
first? Like, oh yeah, remember that Marty? We were gonna name our kid Marty. Like,
Because
let's
they
name our
hate their
third
first
one.
two kids.
I haven't seen the movie before. So is there a kid that looks like Marty or will look like Marty
No,
born at the end in the future?
What do you
no,
know?
it is Marty.
So the third
Because
kid.
Marty already lived with his parents and stuff.
Yep.
And his life was kind of
Oh
weird.
wait, no.
And then he went with Doc, went back. He accidentally meets his mother.
Yep.
In the past, like they haven't met yet, and like he interrupts his father ever meeting his mother,
Okay.
and then he gets them together. But the thing is, when they go back, his life has changed. Like
But think about it though. It
his
doesn't make any
family's
sense.
more
Is he the same
lively and
person, though?
everything.
They have
It doesn't
Yeah,
make any
Marty's
sense.
still Marty, and
No.
they remember Marty. Like,
Wouldn't
where
there
have
be
you
a
been?
different Marty?
It would be different. Okay.
Yeah.
Think
because-
about it. Think
yeah,
about it.
yeah.
Because I don't
Sounds
want to. I don't
like
want to get into sexual.
Exactly, like the grandfather paradox, sort of like he'd be a different version of himself because of the circumstances that created his
No,
birth were different.
There would be a different version of himself when he went back to his family.
Yeah, wouldn't there
because
be two
like
ways?
he left his
wouldn't be him.
parents. He left his parents at
He
the
left
dance.
the original timeline.
No, but remember when he comes back to the future, himself leaves. Wouldn't that be like?
That wouldn't make any sense though.
Because that would be him.
Because why would he?
It's not
He
realistic.
set up a timeline of the circumstance where like he is a completely different person because his family's been nice to him the whole time. He might not even met Doc. He might not even want to go back in the past.
But I think that might be the flaw because if you remember, he comes back and he sees himself leave for the past in the first place.
Does he?
So that must have been he
oh,
coming back
right,
to
he
that
does.
exact moment in that timeline. So he comes back in the
right.
same timeline,
If
except himself leaves and he returns, and everything's different
Yeah,
because
that
it's
doesn't
like
make any sense.
If he,
family.
somehow,
What was the exact
if he somehow takes note to leave, like even in this new timeline where everything's better, if he somehow takes note to leave and then change the past and then come back,
No, what it is?
then it'd be
There'd
refreshed.
be a
Doc-
Doc too, wouldn't
Doc
there?
is fighting terrorists because he stole uranium, right?
Oh yeah.
And then while he's fighting them, he travels in time and goes, and he's in the past. And then when he comes back, Marty sees Doc fighting the terrorists and him traveling in time. But if it's a completely different timeline where his family is nice and everything, it would not be the same exact circumstance where Doc
and
is
then
fighting
Doc
terrorists.
had the note, right?
Yeah, he had the note and everything, and that led to the second and third movie.
Well, the reason why I asked the
Oh
original
no,
question.
the note led
is
to the
that-
third one, but he's like, "It's your kids, Marty. We gotta save them." So he goes to the future, brings his girlfriend along for some reason, and then he tries to save his kids,
What were you saying, Sam?
Okay, anyway,
which
the reason
creates
why
more
I
paradoxes.
asked, the reason why I asked the original question is because when you think about reproduction, there's about a billion sperm that race to the egg.
Yes.
I think you guys know that.
So
So
they have this
Yeah.
the probability that the same exact sperm is going to reach the egg and create you in particular is very, very small. So when your parents meet in a different way,
That could have an
It's
effect on
it's-
which.
yeah.
By that technicality,
Makes it
like
to
the
the
second he comes to the second his car time travels and is in the future, the second it exists in the future, it could change off a chain of events. Like maybe like it moves a
Butterfly
rock
effect.
2 inches, his dad trips over it, and he masturbates 5 seconds later than he would have originally. Then it,
Paul, PG.
oh,
Okay, I know I said sperm, but
then
just try to
like
keep it down.
the sperm that would have been Marty originally is then changed out for some other sperm by some actions that he
That's
would have
true.
partaken
Yeah,
in.
it's called the butterfly effect. When a small change can affect the timeline forever.
Yeah.
So you're saying he had a wank before, and then
No.
Or perhaps he waited a
released
certain
the
time, which
potential
allowed
Marty
Marty
guys. Come on.
And in the
Take it down.
previous version,
PG.
I'm being honest. I mean,
Well, even if that didn't happen, just tripping on the rock would affect the chain of events, which makes
He
him
would
get
get hurt.
home
He
later.
would-
he'd become
he
an
could get hurt. He could
He
like
breaks his leg and he's just laying there.
he
Not necessarily,
breaks
but, like,
his
even if-
spine. He can't move his legs. There's 1,000 of possibilities. That's why the
Yep.
one where there's multiple.
Is there infinite possibilities of any reality?
Well, that's the
Like
whole
right now.
Isn't that the string theory?
No, the string theory is a theory that everything is made of string.
You're an idiot.
That's what it is. I'm not
That's-
kidding you right now. That's the
microscopic string. It's not like we live in Kirby's Epic Yarn or something.
I'm saying that's what the string theory is.
My bad.
But what was I saying that? Like is there infinite possibilities of
Yep.
right now? So let's say we take a pause, right? Pause. In the next 1 second, is there an infinite number of possibilities of something that could happen?
In the next
some thought that comes in your head. There's a certain amount of wind that goes. I don't know if there's an infinite amount.
No, it's a very large amount because
There's
1
an
second is a
infinite amount.
finite number.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, no.
If
could
it was
be
it was an infinite number, then obviously
Well,
time is an
It is
infinite-
an infinite number.
Time is
'cause
an
every-
infinite concept, so there's infinite possible realities, but there's only a certain amount of possible realities in 1 second.
No,
Given
right.
that we
it's
live
ever-
in a
it's
universe
ever-
that's
it's
so
ever-
expansive,
it's
it's going to be really big.
It's ever expanding. Like it would be infinite. It is
Oh,
like
yeah,
even
that's
even
right.
in sect because like say there's 3 versions of like what I could be doing right now. One, I could be smashing my computer on the ground. One, I could be getting up, breaking my leg, or
Cheap, Paul.
one where I'm punching Sam in the face.
All right.
When I go to
Very
punch
bad.
the second I think about going to punch Sam in the face, I could break my pinky and my ring finger, my middle finger, my pointer finger, and my thumb finger.
Paul.
That instantly branches out 5 new paths.
No, you see, you have it
Right.
wrong. We're saying that from the first spot, your little dot where you're starting,
Yes.
the second where you're sitting here, is there an infinite number of branches from that? And I think there is. I'm not saying like at the end there's infinite. I'm saying off the first dot.
Oh, off of the first dot, not including each branch?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there is, because think about it. I could say the number 1, or I could say the number 2, or I could say the number 3. And I could say an infinite number of numbers, right?
Within 1 second, though, because, okay.
It doesn't have to be 1 second, like what I do next.
Okay,
the thought
just what do you do next?
The thought of what I'm doing next.
Well, it's all variable.
Could be
it is finite, but it is such a large number that it's pretty much incomparable.
Well, I mean, it's
infinite.
It's pretty much like to every single atom in the room, because like, well, I mean, if every single there's so many variables to be accessed
so many,
to,
but
like
not
even a notch in the table, like moving of like
right.
of like well, I mean that's probably 1,000 atoms, or like a crap ton of atoms, but like even the movement of a single atom could change the whole like dynamic of like, oh, you get like 0.0000 to a large extent 1 more % friction on your shoe, which might cause.
Exactly.
It's just it's not infinite, but it's
so
catastrophically high.
But if you look at not just us in this room, but the entire universe in 1 second is infinite because it's always expanding.
Yeah, there's like, well, even just think of your head.
Oh, no. In 1 second, it would only expand
So
so
in
far.
1 second, right, a color could pop into my head. There's an infinite number of shades of yellow.
No, there's not.
Yes, there is.
No, there's not.
Yes, there is. Like,
there's
let's
not an
say
infinite number of shades of yellow.
Yes,
There's
there is.
extremely high.
No, there's infinite. Let's say you're going from yellow to green, right? You're yellow to green.
Yeah.
In order to get to green, you have to get halfway. It's like saying counting to 1, right? To count to 1 using fractions, where do you even start? You can't even start.
Matthew.
1 over 1,000,000,000,000,000,000. It's infinite. So there's an infinite amount of shades of yellow.
That would work if you like. I'm not saying that you're not smart, but like if you were infinitely smart, because then you could come up with any number. But there's at some point there's going to be numbers that you
shade
cannot.
Of color, so just like
or there's going to be a shade of color that you cannot physically
we
comprehend.
only have so many
or there's
cones and.
It would just
yeah,
be
so there's
yellow.
a number that there's a
relative
limit
to
to like numbers
Oh.
like where you can think of like there at some point you won't be able to think of any more, and that's where the limit like it might be in like a quintillion to the power of 20 or something, really high number, but at the same time there's a point in which you cannot think of another number, or like you cannot immediately comprehend a number out of your head.
And also I think you'd be like, I can't tell the difference between these 2 shades. It would just still look like yellow to me.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I
because
guess.
the difference would
But
be so much.
I don't know. I feel like there's infinite.
I guess 1.1 repeating is an infinite number.
Yeah.
You know, like 1.111 forever. So I don't know.
Anyways,
Complicated.
I want to try to explain the plot of Predestination. It's really confusing.
Okay.
I'll try to
maybe not explain it.
I'll not explain. I'll
Go
just like
over
take you
it.
through it.
Give it.
And like see what you think.
Don't spoil it though, because I
It's-
haven't watched that.
It's a loop. Well, I have to spoil it. It's like
Let's go ahead and spoil it. Let's
okay.
go.
Okay,
Yeah, I
plug,
guess.
plug your ears.
No,
alright?
no, I'm
okay.
good.
You want to watch it anyways. It's really good.
If it's gonna engage more conversation, it's
Yeah, it involves loop, which I know we want to talk about, like loops involving time, right? Okay, so there's a girl that's in an orphanage, right? And she's growing up, and she's like, she finds out she's like stronger than all the other girls. She starts like beating them up and stuff, and eventually she like gets older, and she wants to become like an astronaut or something. So she goes into being an astronaut. And they do like medical testing on her and stuff, and she finds out that she can't be an astronaut because of like a condition that she has. And it turns out that she has both reproductive organs, right? And so she ends up having to switch her like gender, okay? Because like her other one's like taking over. And before that happened, actually, I skipped a part. Before that, she even found out about that. She met someone. She met a guy. And then had a child. So she had a kid, and then after she had the kid disappeared, and she lost it. Like someone stole her kid in the hospital. So then after that, she wants to become an astronaut, right? And then she ends up having to switch genders. So later on, she's just like growing up still, right? And then she's a man now, and she meets this older guy, and she's like talking to him at a bar or whatever. And he says to her that he can find the man that stole her child, right? So he has a time machine, and he takes her back in time, and is at a place where her and the father of her kid met. So she's standing there and she sees him or her meeting her kid's dad, right? Is that making sense so far?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she sees them meeting. Actually, wait, no. I got it wrong.
Come on.
Okay, so she's a man now, right?
Okay.
Okay.
And
Bruce
she
Jenner.
sees herself in the place where they met. And she bumps into her and, like, introduces herself. And it turns out that she is him. So she is the person
She's
who
the
had
husband.
she had a kid with her.
She had a kid of herself.
Yeah, she had a kid with herself because she switched organs.
So who took the
All right, so she gives birth. Now we're back there.
The birth
Okay, so now we're going up farther, right? So the man that was like helping her find the person that took a child, right?
Is that her?
Yeah. So just wait, keep listening, right? So then I can't remember exactly what happens, but they go back in time, or whatever. After that happens, and I think she gets into some like horrible accident where her face gets really messed up, like it gets burnt really bad, and she has to have plastic surgery. So she gets like under a huge procedure. And after she's done with the procedure, she ends up looking like the man that she met at the bar that helped her go through time. So now she looks like him, and in the end, himself goes back in time, steals the baby, and gives it to an orphanage.
So was that baby her?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Dude, that's
Wait.
insane.
And there's
Okay.
even more to it. There's like
She had
throughout the whole throughout the whole movie, there's a man that's doing bombings, right? And he's like, and they're both trying to catch up. Like the guy that has the time machine is working for an organization that like stops crime through time. And there's a man that has a time machine. He's like going through time and bombing places. And at the end, he catches him, and it's him.
Okay, so she is every character in the.
Yeah, she's every single character.
Wait, that doesn't make sense. Does they steal the baby and then go back in time, or give
No,
him right there? Because that wouldn't make any sense. Because that means she gave birth to him while she was there.
He steals a baby and gives it to an orphanage.
And
And then the baby grows up. So let's just go through the timeline, right? Without any other characters, right?
So it's a,
The baby grows up, gives birth with herself.
to herself.
Yeah, to herself. Then goes farther, gets in a horrible accident while helping. She like joins the organization with the time traveling man, and she becomes one of them. Gets into an accident trying to stop crime, burns her face, and then ends up looking like the man. Then goes back in time, steals her own baby, and gives it to an orphanage. The only thing that I was
How
thinking
can that
about,
baby grow up to be her if they're in the same time? Like, took the orphanage while she gave birth to him, and she wants to be an astronaut. How does that grow up to be her?
this is what I thought. I was like, how is you having a child with yourself produce you?
Well,
That's-
it'd be the exact same chromosome.
But it's a loop, right? It's a loop. So
But
like,
how does time progress? Like, is time 20?
and
So is
it
time
does-
2017 in one loop, and then 30 or whatever the time passing is the other
No,
one? Because
like
it can't be
he went-
2017 in that one.
he went back in time, took the baby, and gave it to the orphanage.
Why did he do that though?
Oh wait, no, he went back in time, took the baby, went back in time again. and
That
gave
makes
it to-
sense. There you go.
Yeah.
That clarifies it. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense then. But
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense.
I had to think about. It's a really, really confusing movie. It's really good.
Well, I have to check it
Like
out.
it's not only
Thought-
just like the
thought
story.
provoking.
I probably explained it pretty bad. Like there's a lot more. Like,
Predestination was the name.
yeah, predestination.
But-
And it's pretty much like your destination is already set. Like I said, right? So like no
Yeah.
matter what, but I still can't get over the like you having a kid with yourself makes you. And where did the baby come in the first place, right? Like it's a loop. There's no world where the baby was at the orphanage without it being taken from the future
It could
where
be
you had sex with yourself.
a loop has to start somewhere. Like
Imagine the cast list though.
the way
They'd all be played by all the different actors in the movie would be playing the same person.
I think do they have different actors for each,
Yeah, well, I think
but they all kind of look.
the
Fairly
two
as for
that
the
have sex with each other are the same person, and then the guy that looks different is different.
as for the baby issue, you have to start the loop somewhere. Like it goes in a continual line, and then it suddenly starts this loop. Because like what could occur is that you have parents who have the exact genetic code needed to produce this baby. Of course, it's like a 1 in quadrillion chance, but they have the exact code needed to produce said baby. And so when the baby is produced, they give it to an orphanage, and the orphanage fulfills the exact requirements of being what the loop is. And so
Well-
you just create it's like you create a new timeline. The loop is stuck in its own timeline, I suppose would be, or like she would be stuck in her own.
It's a
timeline
loop,
to say.
which means you can't find the beginning. You're trying to find the beginning. It's not really possible. Like I'll give you another
Well, you'd
example.
think it'd be the beginning of where they're
There is no beginning.
No.
Like what? Follow the timeline, right? Here's the baby. Where did the baby come from?
You can know where
It
the
came
end
from.
is.
It came from the future. And where did the baby come from there? From himself. And then that was the person that grew up from the baby that was taken from the future.
You could tell where the end is though, due to like just their death, straight up.
No, because when he dies, he gets himself from the past and like restarts the loop.
Yes, there
Isn't
is.
that how that clock thing you did?
Yeah, I was about to explain that. Here's another loop that you can't find the beginning to, right? So there's a woman with a locket,
Okay.
and she gives it to a man, and she says, "Come find me in the past and give this to me." So the man has a time machine. He goes into the past and finds this lady when she's younger, right? Gives this locket to her. They like have a relationship, and in the relationship, he gives her the locket as like a gift, right? And then he ends up dying. Like they get married, and everything. He ends up dying, and then she gets old, and in the future, she finds him and gives him the locket, telling him to go in the past. So where did the locket come from? It came from the woman, and the woman got it from the man, who got it from her. You can't find the start of the loop.
Well, that's because the locket traveled back in time to become itself.
Yeah,
Which paradox is that?
I think.
Is it
There's
the
a list of
bootstrap?
paradoxes here.
I mean,
Can't-
you'd think that it'd just be kind of like that's where you have
That
separating.
would fall under the
timelines.
bootstrap, wouldn't it?
What's bootstrap?
That's when
You can't pull yourself up by your own bootstrings or some crap.
That's
Bootstrap.
a type of paradox in which an object, person, or piece of information sent back in time results in an infinite loop where the object has no discernible origin and exists without ever being created.
There you go. See, the locket exists without ever being created.
The girl
And-
exists without ever being created.
Well, the girl was created.
Well, I guess,
Because,
but
Well, kind of like at some
Yeah,
point,
it's
it's like
See, like they give an example here. It
it's like
says,
a loop. She travels back.
it's
Was
a-
taken back in time to become herself.
it'd be
So, okay,
different.
She was
here's
born,
the
born
example.
from her own body, which means technically she doesn't have an origin.
It's so weird.
So here it goes. The example that says is a 20-year-old male time traveler who goes back 21 years, meets a woman, has an affair, and returns home 3 months later without knowing the woman was pregnant. Her child grows up to be the 20-year-old time traveler who travels back 21 years through time, meets a woman, and so on.
Oh, wait, so does the baby leave her? How does the baby get away and then come back?
Here. Let me read it again. So, a 20-year-old male time traveler who goes back 21 years, meets a woman, has an affair, and returns home 3 months later without knowing the woman was pregnant. Her child grows up to be the 20-year-old time traveler who travels back 21 years through time, meets a woman, and so on. So, I think
Don't
it
you
kind of...
recognize it as your mother?
That's
But,
what
okay,
I said about
the
the other
son
thing.
would
And
have
there's
to
also
be the
says like
same-
they have another example of like information
You always
itself,
have
like
to have the original.
information.
it's something to start off
For
the
they're
loop, or
using
else the
Star
loop
Wars
would
for
be
this
created.
example, like a Star Wars script that says George Lucas traveling back in time and giving himself the scripts for the Star Wars movies, which he then goes on to direct and gain great fame for, would create a bootstrap paradox involving information, as the scripts have no true point of creation or origin. So if he has the scripts, he goes back in time and gives himself the scripts of Star Wars.
Keeps the scripts until he goes back in
He,
time
and he
again.
becomes famous and stuff, and then he
Yeah.
immediately goes
That's
back.
kind of
So
like
the scripts are trapped in a time.
In that
It's
case,
like
then
the-
that event cannot occur whatsoever.
Yeah.
But for the movie predestination you're talking about, you have to assume that some sort of event, like somebody had to go into the time, like had to create the loop. Because in order to even have the loop in the first place, it cannot create itself on its own. Because
The locket did. It was the man created the loop when he gave the child to the orphanage. But where did he come from? He was the child who was given to an orphanage by himself. So you can't find the beginning of the loop.
you have to okay. So a loop cannot be created like just naturally. It has to be forced by somebody. Like it can start.
So how was the locket forced?
Well, if you some random dude has a locket on the street and gives it to a guy and says, "Give this to your wife." Gives him the instructions that the old lady did.
Yeah, but in order for that to be true, he would have had to come in the past, because she finds him in the future when he's young. How would she find a young version of him in the future if he didn't time travel in the past?
Well, okay, you have two people giving the locket back and forth to each other, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you have to start somewhere. So you have
But with a loop, you can't start. That's why it's a paradox, is because there is no start.
Well, I mean, you could, but
Paul's trying to disprove a paradox here.
okay.
So you're trying to say if the old man gives the locket to the man or the woman?
Okay, I need like some visual
Let's say, like,
You
a
can't
lock-
give it to the man because the woman gave it to the man.
So you're
She gave it
saying
to the
like
woman,
there's
so
like
the
a
man
lock,
gives it to the woman.
like let's
Yeah,
say there's
the
a
woman
locket
tries to give it
maker.
to the man, but she got it from him,
Whose
Paul.
is this?
I don't know.
Yeah, no one's
I
even.
wouldn't touch that.
I'm gonna steal
You're not gonna be able
from
to
the page.
disprove it, Paul. It's
Yeah,
paradox.
it's a
paradox.
paradox.
People have been trying to
Paradox.
disprove it for years.
And it's
can't
impossible
find a
because
loop.
it's a loop.
You're a high school student. We're all not qualified to
Qualified.
do this.
Okay, he's gonna try to disprove a paradox. He has a red pen, and he's drawing.
Well, while we
stuff.
wait
Yeah,
for
just
him
so you
to
know, the
prove
audience
that.
can't.
Okay.
It doesn't matter if the audience can see it. It matters that you guys can see
Okay,
it.
don't care about our audience. I see how it is.
Okay.
Yeah, Paul G.
Okay.
What do you think you are,
So-
Keemstar?
Basically, the locket starts out on the ground. A man finds it. The man then progresses through his life, and then how does it go? He gives the locket to the young girl. He goes back into the past.
No. He gets the locket from the old lady, goes into the past. and
I'm
he's-
just saying that it doesn't have to be an old lady. It can be any old thing, as long as he then starts doing the requirements for it to be looped.
No, because he got. Where did he get the locket from?
He just finds it on the ground, but it just creates you have. Okay. You start off with a guy who finds a locket on the ground.
Okay.
With
He
the
then-
instructions to give it back to this person when he's...
You
when-
basically create two lockets in the end, because you have the guy who finds a locket, goes back in time, finds it, like, decides, oh hey, I'm randomly gonna go back in time, find a little girl and give this to her, and then he falls in love with her, and then he dies, and the old lady has the locket. Then she can, without the guy finding it, then
No,
she
she-
can give the locket to
No,
him.
you know what she does? She puts it on the street with the note.
Or she doesn't, but she doesn't have
It's
to.
a, it's a loop now.
But she doesn't have to. They can create multiple lockets.
Well, I mean, duplication is just as impossible as not existing at all.
So now that's a different
Yeah.
theory of time travel, though. You're saying that she can change it, so she goes in the future and gives him the locket and says something different, and then he's like, "Screw this! I'm not going back in time."
Well, then that
Well-
can occur in any loop as well. It just has
But
to be
we're
it's
talking
doesn't-
about the
That wouldn't work
consideration
though
that
because
the-
in the previous loop,
She
he
said
does
something-
decide to go back in
Yeah,
time.
but
so
I'm saying
therefore,
she
all the
said
sequence
something.
of
I'm
events
saying
would
that she
make him
said
want to do
something
that.
different. She didn't do it right.
She
But
can't do that.
Are you understanding what
But
I'm
we're-
meaning?
Because the
That,
circumstances are the exact same that would make her say
Yeah,
that.
that's what I'm saying. Paul is saying that she could be able
you
to do something.
couldn't you couldn't make the indirect decision.
This we're talking about the third version of time travel.
Okay, what I'm thinking about is what if the guy, after receiving the locket, made a notch in the locket, then went back in time. It didn't have a notch previously, and he gives it to the woman. It has a notch. She makes a notch.
and so
So
it just
you
gets
see-
then it gets a notch
It
every
gets a
single
notch
time.
every
But it's
single
an
time.
And
so it's
then
kind of
it
like an
won't be the same
imperfect
thing.
loop because it's not the exact
Yeah,
same
but
thing.
if it's going
But
forever,
it is a technical loop.
the
Then it would
odds that
wear
you
out.
had the locket at all, like let's say you're putting a notch in it, right?
I mean, the odds that like a
Eventually-
loop completes itself are infinite.
Just listen, Paul.
What
Like,
if Harry
just
shows
listen.
up and hits it with the sword of Gryffindor?
Just listen, Paul. Because it's okay. So you're putting a notch in it, right? You're taking a little bit of the locket away.
Yeah.
You're scraping a little bit away. And every single time it scrapes some bit away. So eventually you're not going to have any locket left. You're just scraping a little bit away. Now it's nothing. It's just a piece of sand.
But in that
So
time,
the
before
odds-
it becomes a
the
piece of
odds
time, it
that-
is a loop. It's
Paul,
an imperfect
Paul,
loop, but
Paul.
it's a loop.
If it's infinite, that means that there is no locket. Because the odds that you're living in the time where the locket is still there is very low if it's infinite. Like if you
Oh
pick
yeah, the locket
0%.
would never exist at all because the loop had already happened a bunch of times.
Yeah, like if you pick a number out of infinity, what are the odds that it's 5?
0%.
Yeah, exactly, 0.
0%.
So the odds that
infinity.
right now the
Well,
locket
it's
exists
infinite.
is 0.
It'd be 1 over
That's why it's
infinity.
0%. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But
So
that would mean that there is an odd.
Nope.
Yeah.
Infinity is an endless number, therefore there are 0. It's 0%. I
That's
think.
true.
I think.
Well, no. It would just
I
mean
think
at some
It
like
doesn't end though.
it wouldn't
You can't
end, but
add-
it is a chance. It is a chance. 1 over infinity is a chance. 1 over the infinity isn't
don't
equal
know,
to
though.
1 over.
Is
what,
it though?
What would the odds be though?
It'd be infinite.
So
One
there,
infinite.
you could always just add another number. Just add 1.
0.000 so
It'd be
point
infin-
zero
it'd be an
infinite,
in- it'd be-
0 repeating, and then a 1 at the end.
Yes.
It'd be.
But it would that would still mean that it's a number because it is more than 0.
be that. So yeah, for
Even
those who
if
can't
it's
see,
the
it's 0.
infinitesimally
Yeah, but I'm
small
saying,
number, but
I'm
it's more
saying
than
what are
zero.
the odds that you are living in the world where the locket exists? Because it only exists for like
Well,
a
it's infinitesimal, but it still can happen.
yeah, it can't happen. I'm just saying what are the
0.0
odds
with a
of
line over it, repeating, and then a 1 after it. That's what the odds would be.
It's,
Well, that's
but there
impossible,
are
'cause
still
all you have to
Because
do is
technically it's 0% because
just
the zeros
add
never end
1.
for the 1 to add.
Yeah, so
on
there
the
would
end
be
of it.
no one
But
that you
that's
could
just
possibly
But
that's
it's
just a
still
matter of
technically
patience.
odds.
It is still technically a bigger odd than 0.
Yep.
But it's not really.
But it is.
So
Like,
it's-
in
it's-
the end,
it's really kinda-
in the end, it is.
But it
It
isn't.
is. It is a number bigger than 0. As long as it has that 1 and it isn't 0 over infinity, then it will be bigger than 0. It's simple as that.
Sure, I guess so. I don't know. Time travel is just complicated.
Oh, my brain hurts. Look at that predestination. It just like screws with your mind. Like you have a child with yourself.
Yeah, and then you freaking just like go back in time and you had a child with yourself and that child is you.
I don't think that's
That's
possible.
so weird.
Like you were born a
Can't
woman.
really, yeah.
You're born a woman, and then you become a man. and then
To
you
have
have
a child with yourself.
oh,
And
God.
that is you. And then that
That's
child
so
grows up
weird,
to
yeah.
become you and
That-
have a child with
But
yourself.
were you guys understanding what I was talking about?
Yeah.
Like it could be like this him finding the locket on the ground could introduce a new chain because like eventually Shiji could just create the chain by having him give it back to him. Like
Then technically that would kind of be
that would be a loop.
okay. Anyway,
Okay, so anything else you want to bring up?
let's bring up a couple paradoxes, just because. I mean,
Okay.
we already brought up a couple, but I figure bring up a couple more.
All right, what do we got?
Just bring up a couple. I'm not sure what time. How long we've been running? Quite a few.
We got like 51 minutes right now.
Really?
Well, it's
Just on
4:50.
this one plus the previous segment.
Oh, I don't know.
It's
Whatever.
4:54 right now.
This is fun. Okay. What's a good
My
one?
mouth's drying out.
Well, I think everyone. Did we mention the grandfather paradox?
We
at
did a
all?
little bit.
Yeah, we
I,
talked
I
about
think
it.
Do we
people
want to
understand.
touch?
It's pretty
yeah,
basic.
it's pretty
Yeah.
basic.
And it's been resolved actually, metaphysics. Put a video on it.
How?
I don't know exactly. I don't remember anything about it, but I
You
saw it in
remember,
my
but you saw
feed.
it.
Saw it in my feed.
So
My feed tells me
clickbait.
that Trumps eat babies.
What's this? Oh, this
Not
is
my
interesting.
Facebook feed.
Hold
yeah,
on.
yeah, you can read it. It's a
So
better reader now.
I just read this thing. So we currently have like a list of different paradoxes we can discuss, and one of them, it's under the grandfather paradox. It's called the timeline protection hypothesis, and it says you pop back in time, walk up to your grandfather, and point a revolver at his head. You pull the trigger, but the gun fails to fire. Click, click, click. The bullets in the chamber have dents in the firing caps. You point the gun elsewhere and pull the trigger. Bang. The gun shoots. Pointing at your grandfather again. Click, click, click. So you try another method to kill him, but that only leads to scars that in later life he attributed to the world's worst mugger. You can do many things as long as they're not fatal until you are chased off by a policeman.
See, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you can't change it. Like you tried to kill him, but you ended up failing.
And then there's your theory when you're talking the multiple universes hypothesis. You pop back in time, walk up to your grandfather and point a revolver at his head. You pull the trigger and boom, the deed is done. You return to the present, but you never existed here. Everything about you has been erased, including your family, friends, home, possessions, bank account, and history. You've entered a timeline where you never existed. Scientists entertain the possibility that you now created an alternate timeline or entered a parallel universe.
That's how the grandfather paradox is resolved then, because you just split up, and now you're in the timeline, but you didn't exist in a timeline previous to you entering it via time travel.
Yes.
Yeah, and then there's
Yeah.
the
Yes.
Why not?
then there's the let's kill Hitler paradox. It says it's similar to the grandfather paradox, which paradoxically prevents your own birth. The killing Hitler paradox erases your own reason for going back in time to kill him. Furthermore, while killing Grandpa might have limited butterfly effect, killing Hitler would have far-reaching consequences for everyone in the world, even if only for the fact you studied him in school. The paradox itself arises from the idea that if you were successful, then there would be no reason to time travel in the first place. If you killed Hitler, then none of his actions would trickle down through history and cause you to want to make the attempt to kill him.
Right in the future.
It would change. It's the butterfly effect again. Like that.
You would
one
jump
change.
to a timeline where Hitler never existed, so the you from that timeline wouldn't go back in time to kill Hitler. But
Well,
the
there'd
you
be a-
from the
there would be
original
a lot-
He would have
timeline
been
still
existent.
would.
You're just killing him. You're not removing his existence.
There would be a lot more things change than just the fact that you wouldn't go back in time to kill him.
Well, yeah.
Everyone wouldn't have heard the name Hitler, everyone
Well,
wouldn't
people
have
would
known.
You would
heard
just
them
be a
hurt.
failed German
Millions
politician
millions
from
of
the
people wouldn't have
1940s.
died in the Holocaust. There's
Yeah.
so many things that would
Yep.
change.
It'd probably be a lot more overpopulation. Probably like a
And
billion
also,
now.
from the
There probably wouldn't be as much anti-Semitism,
right.
and people
That's
wouldn't
true.
be able to make poorly timed Holocaust jokes. So that's good.
All right, guys. Sorry, I gotta leave for a second. I
All right, no
I just
problem.
remembered I gotta do something, and I'm gonna be late for it. So
Oh, you're leaving?
Okay.
Yeah, I apologize, audience. Yeah, I'm
See ya.
sorry.
All
I
right,
gotta,
Dang it,
thank you,
Bert.
for joining.
Well, it's good
Yeah.
having you.
Good having you.
Yep,
All right, well,
sorry.
that was
Thank
okay. See you, Bert.
Yep,
Yeah.
thanks.
Bye.
All right.
All right, I guess with him gone, we should probably just do the outro
Yeah.
then. I guess.
Yeah.
I think so. That's a good.
That's
That's a
it.
good
I
note to
think
end on.
I have to go in just a little bit too.
All right, well, thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed this time travel TikTok.
Yep,
We had a
thank
lot of
you.
fun here,
We-
and thank you to Roberto, Dylan, and Paul for coming in and talking to us.
You got it.
No problem. Thank
All
you.
right,
Bye.
bye. Tune in
Bye.
next time.
Bye.
Is everyone in the right spot for the podcast?
I think so.
Yeah,
We have a guest.
Whoa,
thing.
whoa, give me
Well,
my
too,
pencil.
I don't think Bert's here yet. It's kind of bad.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
late.
we'll wait for
Is
him.
the door unlocked?
Oh,
Yeah, I
wait.
don't know.
Is that him right there?
Sorry, guys. I'm late.
Oh, hey,
That's
Bert.
all right. We're just about to start, actually, so that's good.
Yeah.
Alright,
All right, yeah, you can sit right here.
Okay, let's get started.
All right.